I think this video is one you've been looking at trying to get sorted for some time now, because we've been testing lots of drivers, lots of clubs in the last 2 months.
Lots.
The TSR2 is my club of choice.
And I've never hit it.
You've never hit it?
Never hit a TSR.
Well, you're going to be hitting it today, aren't you? Because you wanted to put it up against...
The club that should be in my bag, but isn't
yet.
The 430.
The Ping G430 driver. So in today's video, Lee has brought the G430 to go up against my TSR2, my club of choice.
Yep.
And we'll go through why it's my club of choice for a number of reasons. But we're going to take it kind of off the shelf today. So we've got 9-degree heads in both drivers. We're going to set them as standard in both drivers.
Yep.
And just see how they perform.
Yep.
Be really interested to see the difference in spin numbers. It'd be interesting to see the difference in ball speed numbers. And at 9-degree and at standard set, you would say that they should be there or thereabouts. The only slight difference with these two drivers, which probably there's a lot of people out there who will say this is a big difference, is the shaft.
But it's very similar. Like, that's the RDX black 60 gram stiff.
Okay.
And this is the RDX red 60 gram stiff.
Okay, this has got 3.5. If we look at the numbers on it, it's 6.0, 60 gram, low spin, mid spin. So this one may be going to spin it up a little bit more than what we get out of this. I've tested this shaft, well, I've had it in a driver previously and used to get really low spin. So it'd be interesting to see how we get on. Which one do you like out of the box?
Ping.
Do you?
You're a bit of a traditionalist, so you like Titleist.
Yeah, I like a clean look.
I'm not a traditionalist and I like loud stuff.
However, when I reviewed the Ping G430, that was hot. That was a good driver, really impressed with that driver. So let's hit some shots, let's get some tech, and let's see how they perform.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Ping G430 because it's the club I brought. And as always, when you look down at the G430, it just looks epic. It's like with all the turbulators and the extra bits that you're now getting on this head from the G425, this kind of like knurled, bobbly bit here, and that sort of like lipstick that goes around the edge, it just looks so much better. Now, the many times I've tested this, there was one major difference from the G425 to this, and that was the sound. The sound on this has changed dramatically, and it finds paths just as well as the 425 did. And that's all because of the technology now in this head, which we'll talk about in a bit. It's just got some extra bits inside the head to change those acoustics round, which was really the G425's major downfall, was the noise. So having it now in the G430 where it just sounds like a normal driver, it's a big thumbs up for me. That's the reason I like Ping. It's a bit of a fairway finding club. Whereas the Titleist is the complete opposite to the Ping. It hasn't got all the bells and whistles. You look at the top of the crown, it is as plain as the plane can be, apart from the TSR marking on the top. And if you're a traditionalist like Dan is, to look down at this, it would be beautiful. It's got a lovely pear shape to it. It's got a nice gloss finish. It just sits behind the ball lovely. But for me, it's just a bit too plain. However, it does send me into my natural habitat. But what I like most about the TSR is the face. I like the way when you look at it, you've got this kind of like lines going vertical that just helps you frame that ball up into the center of the club. And I find that the TSR logo actually centers the ball up really well as well. So if you're trying to line this ball up properly, everything about the face and the head is helping you. But if you're going into TSR2, for me, you're in it for one reason, and that's because you want to find fairways. Let's see if we can find one. No.
Well, you are right, Lee. I am a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to looking at all clubs in the golf bag. I use a set of blades, I use a TSR2 driver, I've got a Scotty Cameron Newport 2 putter. These are all very traditional looking clubs. The Ping though, I gotta say that the year on year, the way that they've made their Ping driver, This year, the G430 has jumped out to me as the best looking one that they've made. It's the best looking and the best sounding, and actually quite possibly the best performing that they've made in years gone by. And you need to go and check out the review that we've done on that one as well. However, if you go and check out the review of the TSR2, you'll know that I used to be in the TSI3 driver, which was very kind of pear-shaped looking. It was a bit of a low spinner for me, which meant that I used to perform quite well with it on occasions, but when I was having my bad days, it would kind of dip out of the air for me a little bit too much. Flip a bit, go a bit. Well, that could work.
That's good.
It's about a 1200 spin. And I was probably always fitted really perfectly into the old TS2 and the TSI2, those being slightly different in their profile look, whereas now the TSR2, profile-wise, exactly the same as what I was getting out of the old TSI3, which was lovely for me. I don't think you're necessarily buying this driver just to hit fairways like Lee kind of says. However, it is going to spin just that little bit more than what I'm getting out of that TSI3 or even TSR3. But as Lee quite rightly said, when you look down at this club, you've got that lovely profile on the face, which enables you to line that club up a little bit easier to the ball. And then the TSR stamping on top, again, just lining it up perfectly. And like I said, this pear shape on top just suits my eye. That's personal preference for each of us. But when I did the review of the G430, I gave it a great review. I thought this club was really performing quite nicely. But when you put it up against now, you put them side by side with the TSR compared to this now, you're seeing that, well, turbulators on top. There's just a lot going on top of this driver, which for someone like Lee is perfect. It kind of suits his eye. For someone like me, I'm going to gravitate more towards the Titleist. I mean, we'll get into the tech when Lee gets into it in just a moment, but looking down at the club, like I talked about a minute ago, you know, a little bit less gloss on top, so more of a matte finish compared to the TSR, which is more glossy. They got the ribbing that runs around the head that we've talked about, but if you flip it over and you start to see what's happening here, which is what you're going to see when you look at it in those pro shops, I'm kind of liking the detailing that they've done here underneath. That little bit of green just makes it pop a fraction when it's on the shelf. So probably the big difference that we're going to see with these two clubs, I think similarities in ball speed, I think similarities in forgiveness, but maybe a fraction more spin out of the Ping over the Titleist for me personally.
So if we talk about the Ping G430 first, the first thing to talk about is the face. This has a forged face on it, and this is now thinner and shallower for a more variable thickness face. It's what all the brands are doing now. They're going for this variable thickness face in order to give you the maximum ball speed across the whole of the face. New to this driver is spin consistency. We saw it in the old G425 Woods and Hybrids. Well, it's now moved its way into the G430, and that's designed to give you more consistency of spin across the face. You also get the movable weight at the back, and this is to give you the most forgiveness possible. The Ping G430 is quoted to be the most forgiving golf club, or the most club with the most MOI on the market. And finally, we've got sound engineering. So inside this head, you won't be able to see it, but there are ribs, and that's what's changing the tone of the sound from the G425 into the 430 to make it a lot better. So that engineering is the biggest thing and the biggest change you will hear when it comes to the G430. Okay, now on to the TSR2, and the first thing to talk about that you will notice visually from the TSI2 is it's now got a better profile. It's now more tour inspired. So for someone like Dan, he now likes the look of the TSR2 over the TSI2 because it's not as stretched back. The biggest talking point about TSR, and it is find your faster, is the advancements in aerodynamics of this. So that's designed to go through the air quicker, which in turn should give you more club speed, and that relates to more ball speed. And obviously you've got the face as well. You've got this new, or that came out in TSI, this aerospace face, this aerospace titanium that's used in NASA. This has got a variable thickness, like all the brands are doing now, which is designed to just give you maximum ball speed across the whole face. And on the TSR2, we have this weight. It's not movable, but when you're getting a fit in, that is interchangeable, so they can change the MOI depending on your needs.
Numbers from me then. If we look at ball speed off the club face from the TSR2, I'm getting 151.5 mile an hour. Now what I would say is in the studio today, it's really cold. Lee and I have walked in here and we are both struggling to get our speed up. 151.5 mile an hour off the face of the TSR2 compared to 151.8 out of the G430. So I said it before as we were hitting some shots, I didn't think there was going to be a massive amount of difference, and there really isn't. However, this is an interesting one. Remember, these are both 9 degrees in loft of these drivers. I'm getting a 15.2 launch out of the TSR2 compared to 13.7 launch out of the G430. Don't feel like I'm striking them massively different. Feel like they're both kind of high on the face, a little bit in the toe. So just launching it a little bit higher, well, noticeably higher on the numbers from the TSR2. If we then go to spin, and this is the big change. I didn't think it was going to be quite as big as this, but there is a change in here. 1,876 on an average revs at the TSR2 compared to 2,456 revs out of the G430. If I'm brutally honest, I kind of want something to sit in between them. So I'd have to adjust them both a little bit to see what I could change it around fractionally. I might have to go into the LS Tech version out of the G430, which is their low spinning head. And then I'd have to adjust what's going on, possibly my strike location with the TSR2. And then peaking out 36 yards high from the Titleist compared to 37 yards high with the Ping. And then average carry, 264 out of the Titleist compared to 254 out of the Ping. And really, the only major difference here for getting you the different numbers in distance in carry is the fact that my spin is so low out of that Titleist, launching it high, spinning low, compared to launching it a little bit lower and spinning up a little bit more, which is why I'm getting a little bit more carry, well, 10 yards on an average out of the Titleist. Okay, so my numbers actually came out a little bit closer than Dan's, and when I was striking them, I didn't feel like they would do that. So if we start with the TSR first, ball speed 156.2, max of 158, and then G430 155.4, next to nothing in it. Like Dan said, it's cold in here, just couldn't get that speed up. Launching the TSR at 12.6, really good launch, and the G430 at 14.1, so it's in my launch window, so really good numbers. Spin, it's negligible. 2295 with the TSR, 2369, 6 standard deviation in the way. It's completely the same when it comes to spin. And that again relates to the carry of 263 with the TSR and 262 with the G430. But this is where I noticed a difference, and I feel like I'm probably getting the most out of the G430, but I could get more out of the TSR2. Club head speed with the TSR2 110.6, club head speed with the G430 108.1, max to max 112 versus 110. And the reason for that is I felt like the Ping just felt heavier. When I went into the TSR, definitely felt like a lot lighter. So for me, I feel the TSR's got probably just a bit more potential in it, and I possibly was maxing out the G430 for the way I'm swinging today. You like tapping those faces? I like to tap the face because I think you can get a real good sense of...
They all sound the same.
They sound the same, yeah, you're right. Well, which one's it going to be then, Lee?
Like, I love the G430, and I think it just gives me that balance of everything I want, of a bit of forgiveness. I am sacrificing distance over it, but for me, it just gives me that forgiveness. I've still yet to test the LS Tech,
yeah.
So that might be the perfect club, but I just, like, if I was going for potential, if I was I had a choice of these two clubs, I needed to hit it further, I think that's got more potential in it, because I can swing it faster because it feels lighter, even though the shaft's the same weight.
Interesting, that one.
So I feel like I could get more out of that,
yep,
with a bit more time with it. I've spent quite a lot of time with the G430, so I'd have this, but if I was on a bombing day, I'd want that in the bag. Two
things that I'm going to say about both drivers that I think that companies need, and I've talked about this in previous videos, but just the loft sleeve stuff. I want to have, possibly, I want companies to maybe look at the loft sleeves of both these two companies, certainly, as to can we improve that a little bit. And the reason I say that is because if I start moving this around, and no different in the Ping, if I start moving this loft sleeve around, which changes my lie angle, changes my loft of the club, The shaft, even though I can set it into that shaft position where the writing is at the back of the shaft, which is how I like it, in 1 or 2 settings, well, certainly 2 settings, or 3 settings for 4 settings, if I change it around a little bit more, it starts to come on the outside or at the front. And for me, I prefer them to start to look at tech like that moving into 2024 to see if we can improve that. It's exactly the same in the Ping, so it's not just one against the other in that. It's just the fact that I think there's time to upgrade what's been going on in here.
And I think if you've got like a grip like this, which is like the same all the way around, you know, there's a visual difference, but you don't feel a difference. If like me, and I think you're the same, ribbed. You like the Align grip, so it just helps you with like placement in your hand. You can't change it. And people would say, the argument is, well, once you've been fitted, why would you change it? But if your swing's evolving and you're getting lessons, you may need to slightly adjust these. And then it just becomes a bit of a palaver. You've got to take the grip off and place it, and then it's down, and it's like, I don't like the look of that, I want that. And Callaway have got it right.
Callaway do it. They spin it around. They're able to get it there. Interchangeable at the back. I like the fact that Ping probably have a little bit more of a sliding rail at the back compared to what we've got here on the Titleist, just giving people a bit more of an option there. But again, like Lee said, you've got maybe the sleeve can change that around for you, move that about. But looks-wise, TSR, I love this driver. I think it's a great looking club. It's got all the shape that I want to see from it. It's a little bit quieter on top than what we're getting out of the Ping, but the Ping is a great driver. It's a great performing driver for so many people out there. It's going to fit into so many golf bags, as will the TSR. I think, like you, I think this has got more potential
100%.
with what it can do. I think Titleist are very much in the race of trying to hit the ball a little bit further out there as much as they possibly can, right the way across all their drivers. Good driver, both great drivers. But we'd like to hear what everyone thinks. Which one have you actually got in your golf bag? Because they've been out a little while now, so probably some of you are already playing them. Which one suits your game? Down in the comments down below, which one are you going to be testing, or which one are you gaming right now? Anything else for you to report?
I really need to start deciding what driver I'm putting in the bag this year.
You need to start playing a bit more golf, actually, to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, there is that.
Don't forget, if you're new to the channel and you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all again very soon.